Hello, everyone. Welcome to our argumentation week. We are going to argue. We're going to get our arguments together. I hope that you've been having a pretty good weekend. I hope some of you got some rest time, some time to hang out with family and friends and just relax a little bit. And if you didn't get to, I'm sorry. I wish you could have. So we've got two videos. This one on the week 9 overview, and then we have a video on argumentation this week. So you will want to make sure that you watch that argumentation video before you begin the second half of this week. The habit of the week is speculating. We looked at speculating a few weeks ago as we were considering the whole concept of argument, and we read the essay on argument as journey. And now we're coming back to speculating, and this time we're going to be imagining some alternatives in argumentation. Your first reading assignment is called On Imagining Alternatives. Then you have two practice sessions that I'm asking you to do in response to that essay. The first one is recognizing imagined alternatives, and the second one is called The Strange World of Alternative Facts. I would like you to submit both of those by Thursday because I want you to have enough time to focus on the real meat of this week in argument and developing your own argument in the second half of the week. I do want you to read on complexity. You're not going to have any practice sessions from the book. The rest of the work this week is coming outside of the book, but reading on complexity can only help you with the process of developing your own argument. So we have two quotes here that you will see again in the argumentation video. An argumentative discussion is a critical discussion aimed at resolving a difference of opinion. True resolution is reached only if both parties come to hold the same position on grounds of rational argumentation. The first one is kind of a paraphrase. The second one is a direct quote, as noted by the quotation marks. And they both come from the same book. It's called Argumentation, Analysis, Evaluation, and I think Presentation is the full title of it. I just keep calling it Argumentation. That's its main title. And it's written by some Dutch authors and used in Dutch universities to teach argumentation, both oral argument and written argument. So it's used in classes that are equivalent to this class that we're in right now and other classes as well. And that is one of the books that I spent, or really the main book that I spent most of my time with in the Writing Institute this past week, which I think I told you all, our focus was on argumentation, and our director highly recommended this book, and I had read several of the other options, so I read this one, and I'm really glad that I did. It, I think, will change the way I present argumentation and help students work through the stages of argumentation. This next quote comes from a book called The Craft of Research, which is the textbook that I used in English 102 in the previous textbook cycle. So we have, our textbooks are used on a 3-year cycle, and every 3 years we reevaluate the books according to our curriculum and a bunch of other things, and determine which ones we'll continue using and which ones we will replace with other better options. Our Habits of the Creative Mind, even though it's very different than The Craft of Research, is the one that was kind of brought in to replace The Craft of Research. I love both of these books. I think they both have wonderful things to offer. So This one is very similar to the previous um, quotes that we were just looking at. In a research argument, you make a claim, back it with reasons supported by evidence, acknowledge and respond to other views, and sometimes explain your principles of reasoning. So we're going to be working with both of these views of argumentation, which are very compatible views of argumentation. So by the time you get to this slide in the week, you should have watched the argumentation video. If not, please make sure that you do so that you will understand better what's expected of you in the following exercises. But you're going to do a little bit of preparation work, asking you about your argument, and then you're going to be asked to actually kind of sketch out. And by sketch, I mean just like a kind of a rough, it can be pretty sketchy. Like it doesn't have to be a fully developed piece, outline or plan for your argument. It can just be like bullet pointed phrases, fragments, that kind of thing, just to give you maybe kind of a template or a sort of a plan to work with so that you don't look at a blank page and wonder, what am I supposed to do? Which is what I would do. So you're going to start off by sketching a working introduction. Again, it doesn't have to be fully fleshed out. Just basically state, a summary of the key points and the sources that are most relevant to your argument. Rephrase your research question as a statement. Kind of sketch out briefly an answer to "so what if we don't find out," and state the answer to your question. Now this, you've done most of this already because of your literature review. So this part is really not asking you to do too much that's new. You might need to kind of re-look at the way you have things laid out already, but you're really just pulling from the work that you've done for your literature review for this part. But then you get into actually planning your argument. So you want to identify the key concepts that will run through your whole paper. So what are those concepts, those points that you're going to be making? Think of them as like the key words that will come up over and over again in your paper. You want to make sure that those are going to appear in your introduction and the body and the conclusion. You want to plan the body of your paper using those concepts to guide you. Note the specific reasoning and evidence for each section of your paper and indicate where to put any acknowledgments and responses to criticism. So in that body of your paper, what are the main points that you're going to make to support your thesis, your position that you're taking in your argument? What evidence are you going to use for each of those reasons? Make specific notes about that, like where you're going to find that evidence. What source does it come from? Put the necessary information you need. You don't need to copy it all out unless you want to, which for some of you, that might be a really good idea. Others, it's enough to just give like that quick bullet pointed information, but you want to have a plan basically. And then once you've sort of planned out the body of your paper, go ahead and sketch your working conclusion. So a way to do that is to go ahead and state your claim again and sketch out the significance of your claim. That another answer to "so what?" So why is this important? So what do we need to do with this? So what is the purpose of all of this? So that's, excuse me, excuse me again. So that is kind of giving you this overview of your paper. It's kind of like your paper in a nutshell, but it's just very sketchy. So maybe the nutshell has a bunch of holes in it, but it still gives you some framework to work with. And then the last thing that I'm asking you to do is to use the schematics in the argumentation video as a guide to create a visual representation of your argument. So again, if you haven't watched that argumentation video by the time you get to this slide, you really need to watch it. Otherwise, you're not going to know what I'm talking about here, most likely, unless you too have read that Dutch argumentation book. So this, you can draw it out by hand if you want to, and just take a photo or scan it and submit that if it's easier for you than trying to do it on the computer. If you want to do it on the computer, you may want to use Jamboard. That's a really good tool to use maybe for this, using like the sticky notes feature or something. And then I know that there are other tools like drawing tools and things that are available in Word and in Google Docs and Pages. And if you want to get into those, you can. But you really want this to be a visual representation comparable to the schematics, not a traditional outline that we think of. And you'll understand more why I want you to do it that way after you've watched the argumentation video. Right, so your assignments, the work that you need to submit this week after you've done your readings, you want to submit your Recognizing Imagined Alternatives practice session and the Strange World of Alternative Facts practice sessions. And then you want to submit the argumentation stuff. And none of this, particularly the argumentation stuff, has to be like full on beautiful proofread work. That's not necessary at this point in this project. Next week, you will be drafting your argument essay. So the more attention you pay this week to your argument plan, to answering those preparatory questions, planning your argument, and crafting your schematic representation of the argument, the easier it's going to be to sit down next week and actually write the argument essay. So that is everything for this week. If you have any questions, of course, please let me know. And yeah, have a good week. I look forward to reading your literature reviews this week. And I will catch up on the other assignment grading as well. It'll be good to just kind of stay home this week and get all that done, caught up. But if you have any questions or concerns in the meantime about your work, about anything, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, what to watch on Netflix or Hulu, please, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And I would love to try to help you the best I can with any of these things. So that's all for now.